Hey everyone, Matt Jarbo here, 3 Buck Theater. Right now I'm out doing work and I can't really do a walk around video. It's also like 100 some odd degrees here in Washington, so I'm very much staying in my car in the shade. But I wanted to talk about something else that's heating up, and it's a discussion surrounding blockbuster movies, their budgets, and how much they actually earn at the box office and how many of them are going to be absolute failures. Obviously, for the last month, with the SAG strike and the writer strike, we've seen a lot of commentary about how well Barbenheimer has done. Barbie completely restored the box office. It's the highest grossing single film from a female director in all of history. It's now Warner Brothers' highest grossing domestic box office movie. It seems like every time they really try to hype up this movie, because that's all they've been doing, it's like they're looking for any little thing they can to give some kind of accolade to it. But when a movie let's say The Last Voyage of the Demeter comes out and doesn't do as well as Barbie or whatever, they go, oh, it sinks. It's terrible. It's terrible, it sinks. And I always have a problem with that, because I think that creates undue negativity. And something else that creates undue negativity is all of this hoopla around the box office, right? We got to really start to think about this from a business perspective and less from a fantasy football perspective, because many times these backseat box office people who talk about this well, this movie is a failure and that movie is a failure. Right? Indiana Jones is going to lose $100 million. Mission Impossible is going to lose $100 million. They do this all the time. I see this all the time. And it's frustrating. It's very frustrating. Now, this was sent to me by multiple people who were just like, see, these movies are failures. These movies are flops. Oh my God, it's the end. It's so bad. Well, we need to really talk about the massive budgets that they had, why they had those budgets, and ultimately what it can mean for everything going forward. So, real quick, let's talk about Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible. They both had COVID protocol budget expenditures, right? That increased the budgets quite a bit. Mission Impossible had to shut down production multiple times in order to finally get the damn movie done, simply because of all of the COVID precautions and the occasional person who got sick. Indiana Jones didn't really have that, but they did have to shut it down. Never mind the amount of money that Lucasfilm spent on de-aging Harrison Ford for the opening 25 minutes of that movie. I did a whole video yesterday about deepfakes and why we basically need to have an honest conversation about them. You guys can check that out, obviously, on the channel. But at the same time, the thing we have to remember about these movies is that movies are largely always going to find a way to become profitable. Elemental largely was lambasted when it came out, has now eked into the profitable market space. Deadline reported that Fast X had made around $710 million on a $340 million budget and had finally eked into profitable territory, right? And people are pushing back on that because of the age-old myth that a movie is only profitable box office wise if it makes 3 times its production budget, which again is not really true when you look at, and this is usually what doesn't get taken into account, the amount of tax incentives that they get for filming in different countries or doing the effects in different countries. You can find about this information pretty much everywhere. There's also the fact that the marketing is a tax write-off for the studio. And let's not forget about the home video market. Now, a lot of movies are going to find their profitability on that marketplace. Obviously, something like Fast and Furious X is going to end up going to Peacock, where they are going to probably pay Universal to put the movie there and see record viewing numbers on that one. But look at something like Indiana Jones. That's going to end up going to going over to Disney Plus, as it should by probably sometime next month. And that's going to end up being used by Disney, and largely they're going to pay themselves off of that one. But we also have to remember that movies will go PVOD for a while before they go to digital streaming. Indiana Jones is becoming a PVOD next week, which means that it's going to sell really, really, really well on PVOD, and then ultimately it's going to do very, very, very well on home video. And that is something that a lot of people just never really want to talk about, is the fact that a lot of these movies end up making a grip load of cash on home video sales that can oftentimes push them into the profitability margin. There's also the streaming licensing deals. There's also the licensing to certain networks, right? Or the licensing to different territories. I mean, famously, Kevin Smith got the budget, got the financing for some of his movies, his smaller $4 million films, because he set up the distribution deals in other countries in order to basically have that cash on hand in order to get the investors to bring in their movies. And that's the reason why Kevin Smith movies are cheap, but they're also profitable. They figured out the best way to push them into that category. The movies are always going to be profitable in some way or another. It's rare that a movie flops so bad to where it ends up not being profitable in the slightest. Take a look at The Flash, for example. I do believe that The Flash is going to end up finding its way into profitability when the film does finally hit home video. I mean, I don't know if is it already on PVOD? I forget if it is or if it isn't, but the movie didn't do well theatrically. We know that. It definitely did not do well theatrically, but once people started finding it and hearing about it, it started picking up more steam. And that's kind of what happens with this. There are so many movies that come out every single year. Not everybody has the budget to go see them in theaters. And to judge a movie's quality or its merit simply based upon how much money it makes or doesn't make in the box office, I think is a real disservice to everything that we love about movies. We have got to stop playing backseat, box office, analysts, and stop treating it like it's fantasy football, because it's not. We are people who love escapism. So let's love escapism. We are people who want to watch these movies and enjoy them. So let's watch them and enjoy them, right? If you get caught up in that whole rigmarole online about box office success based upon that, and look, I know I've done it too, and I'm going to try to not do it anymore, then I think you're doing a disservice to yourself as a film fan. But those are just my thoughts on this one. Curious what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments. Be sure to watch Hollywood After Dark tonight, and have a good one, everybody. I'm going back to air conditioning because it's simply too damn hot in this car. Bye.